Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Caroline Olomola and it is my pleasure to have you all with us. Today we'll be talking to a special friend of ours, a deaf person, a person with disability. We're gonna be asking him some questions and I'm sure you enjoy today's program as we get into it. Hello, welcome. And it is nice to have you with us. Can you tell us your name?
My name is Daniel. Signed what? Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. You're welcome. And also, we would like to know what is your level of education?
I have NCE in education.
That means you're educated.
Thank you.
We have persons with disability who don't just have the disability, but many of them are educated. Your childhood experience growing up as a deaf person. What has been your challenges? I know that as a young child, you will have different challenges growing, right? Can you take us through your childhood experience growing up as a deaf person?
I appreciate God for everything. I was not born deaf, but when I became deaf, I felt all hope was lost. When I became deaf, I didn't even have the desire to continue with education. But my father said no and forced me to go back to school. I wasn't also aware there's a deaf school anywhere. In that deaf school, after being forced there, I found out that there were so many deaf and it was so amazing. Later, my father felt bad and that I shouldn't be in a deaf school. He removed me and took me to a hearing school. I refused because I was enthusiastic in deaf school and I wanted to learn sign language. Thank God, my father left me there to continue, and my experience wasn't bad. I enjoyed my stay there. I never look back to when I was hearing and why I became deaf. Looking back is gonna affect me, and I thank God. In social situation, I have some few challenges when I'm in the midst of hearing people because I feel I'm different from them, but I thank God. In other ways, some see me to be different, others may say you are different from deaf. These things make me feel happy, not much, but when I'm being looked down upon, it affects me. Not that much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are happy that you never viewed yourself as someone lower than others. You have the same equal rights as other children. You have to go to school. That is enough to show that you have that belief in yourself. We appreciate your father also for forcing you to go to school. Thank you very much. You explained to us that you were not born deaf. Can you tell us how did you become deaf? Since it wasn't natural, how did it happen?
Well, it was just that I fell sick, but I was in hearing school, also junior school. That day, my uniforms were dirty, and I was asked to go wash them. It was in the village at that time, and there was no tap water in the village, so we had to go to the river to wash. There, I found out I was sick and I had a headache. Nothing much there. After washing my clothes, I went back home. The sickness was serious, and later I became deaf.
Just like that, just found out you had headache, and then which means you were sick. Later, you found out also you could not hear anymore.
The sickness didn't take long. It affected me for a week. About 2 to 3 days, that was it. After that sickness, 1 week later, I couldn't see again. And when I felt I couldn't hear, I told my mother, and she felt I was being funny. I later told my dad, and he also felt I was being funny and I wasn't serious. But later, we were together in a common room, My father went out and my mom was in the kitchen. She called me to come and eat and I couldn't hear. Then they believed I could not hear. That was it.
I also want to ask, how old were you at that time?
I think I was just 18 years below because I was in junior school in Jesus 1 at that time.
When you fell sick, were you taken to the hospital?
At that time, they called the doctor to come home and I wasn't taken to the hospital, so I was being treated in the house.
Then you became healed after the treatment.
After the treatment, I became healed. After everything, 1 week later, my ears were closed.
When they noticed you couldn't hear, what did they do?
Also, we went to the hospital together. They tried all they could and nothing happened. They even continued until I grew older. I had to tell my father to stop. Leave it in the hands of God. God has a purpose. Whenever I remember how I became deaf, throughout that day of my life, I will be so worried and I'll cry so much. Why did I become deaf? What happened? Then one day God led me to the Bible in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verses 11, which says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, said the Lord, the thought of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end." I read that portion of the Bible repeatedly until the Holy Spirit of God explained that place to me and told me God has a reason why He allowed it to happen. From that moment, all my worries ended. I had to advise my father to stop wasting money and time. And when I knew and understood God's reason, later my father heard of a deaf school and he accepted that I go there.
From what I got, you had faith after you had read the Word of God and you believed this particular thing that has happened to me, it is God's will, His purpose for my life, and decided that I will stand up and be me. I will not discriminate against myself. That's very good. Thank you. I would like to know, and I'm also sure other people want to know too. How have people perceived you in the society when you go out? Maybe when you went to work or during the time you were in school. How did people out there perceived you? Were you in any time discriminated? Did people look down on you?
Thank you. But then I was a student. After my SS3 in the senior school, at that time I was about to write jam. On that day of the exam, I was on the queue. It was going to be a computer test. I was there at the place. That day of the exam, there was this particular man. He was the invigilator. And when he found out I was deaf, he shouted, "What can a deaf person do?" I was surprised.
Did he ask what a deaf person can do?
Later, a friend of mine who was also a church member and my interpreter there, he explained to me. I just smiled at them because he never knew there is ability in disability. My friend smiled and told me, "Don't worry, just pray and leave everything in the hands of God." I wasn't worried and I knew God was going to surprise them. I entered into the examination hall. Then the examination started. At that time, it was computer, and I didn't know computer, so someone was called to assist me with it. And then later, when the person found out I was there, it felt somehow. And another woman was called to come assist me. When she came, she taught me on how to use the computer. I was able to work on it and answer the questions. She was surprised. She went out, called our other colleagues to come. They watched me and they were so surprised. They were like, "Is it deaf? We can't believe this. Is it deaf? We can't believe this. Deaf? Oh." After I finished the examination, I went out and then immediately I came back and then a lot of people came and they were still asking questions in amazement. And then someone asked me, "Are you deaf?" I said, "Yes, I'm deaf." They said, "No, you can't be deaf." I said, "I'm deaf." Then I thank God for the work it was done. Thank God for the work. From there, later on, I received an information that I passed the exam. Immediately, I got an admission into College of Education, Mina. There, I met my mates who looked down on me because in my department I was the only deaf.
Yeah, many of my colleagues looked down on me because I am deaf and I wasn't like others who go to school, receive lecture, and then go about doing that. No, I wasn't like that. See them reading everywhere. I have my time for reading, which is always at night.
Going for lecture, I have just one book with me, which I used to copy. During the lecture, I go to class, I copy the topic, take it back home, and study at night. Many times my colleagues will wonder, and the time for exam came, and they asked me, "Daniel, how will you do this?" I just looked at them, saying nothing. Until when the result came out, I had better result than they did, and also my GPA was better than theirs. They were so surprised from that time, and I was happy. Later on, we were in 200 level and preparing for teaching. Method of teaching. Many of them said, "Daniel, how will you be able to teach knowing that you're deaf?" I just looked at them. I believe I can teach. From that day when it started, they started giving me vain clap. But at the end, truly, even when we started teaching, my lecturer felt pity for me. But when it started from that day, they became my friend. When they saw that there is ability in me, true, and I thank God for helping me go through all this.
This is very interesting to note that you never allowed your disability to take over your confidence. You have the confidence in yourself.
Also, when I finished school, God helped me and I met with this friend of mine. He told me about his brother. He was serving as a corps member in NYC and how he got the job when he finished NYC. I paid over it too, and immediately I also got a job. Later, though the job didn't take long, and then when I was done, I went to Lagos. In Lagos, I didn't know anyone, even the company, I didn't know anyone there. I met with the manager and I explained to him that I needed a job. He said no problem, and later he gave me a job. But the job was kind of difficult. I told him it was difficult for me, and he took me to another department. There in that department, the department leader looked down on me and he asked, "What can a deaf person do in this office?" I was asked to be left alone and just watched. When I entered the department 2 days later, the department leader found interest in me and he felt I was really hardworking. Even when I want to leave the work, he would say, "No, I have to do it," because he felt I was better off. And also in that department, I was the only deaf person there. Thank God.
Now, speaking about government, do you think government has been supportive anywhere with persons with disability?
While government is trying to help some persons with disability, many of us, but one thing that the government is lacking is giving employment opportunity to persons with disability. Like us, we go to different offices to search for a job, and then they tell us that we aren't capable of working there. We aren't capable of working there, and that's just one of it. Another way in which government has been supportive, like myself, I've been able to travel out to Jerusalem some years back, and it was through government initiative and support for us. Also, the problem with governments is job. Many of us are educated. When we finish school, and some of us have master's degree, we don't have jobs. We go around searching for jobs, begging, for jobs and they were not able to get one. The government has been lacking in this area and we know that supports very well. So another place where the government is lagging is that in other countries, um, their governments provide them with facility like housing persons with disability, the deaf have their space, blind have their space, and even the cripple has their space. And they provide them with food to feed them and also pay them some amount of money. But here in Nigeria, we don't have that. We should also have our own individual means of transportation. Like in Lagos, some deaf have their own transport, which the government has provided and it is free for them. But here it is not like that. In other countries, it's the same thing. But in Nigeria, we don't really have it. That's the problem. We also need the government to please look into this matter and place it as a very high priority in the agenda to place equality for us like every other person. Give us good job. When we have good jobs, we'll be able to help ourselves. And some of us are married and then some of us are still thinking of that. For me, I don't have money, I don't have good job and I can't get married. I don't want my wife struggling me or fighting me tomorrow. So that's the problem. Thank you.
True, thank you. So how can the government come in to help person with disability like you is deaf? Or let's talk about other persons with disability too. How can the government come in to support or improve in the support they have been giving out to persons with disability? Other international bodies too. How can they come in to support persons with disability? Knowing that you guys are faced with diverse challenges, especially here in Nigeria. How can they improve to support? Looking at the notion, the idea of discrimination, saying this person is blind or is not capable of working, doing things like other able person. How can these people come in to help and also to improve on what they have been doing? Because I believe that some organizations are working towards making persons with disability feel comfortable and have other good quality of life like other able bodied people. So, in your view, how can they come in to help or improve in what they have been doing before?
Well, for me, in my own view, I would like the government to give us accessibility to jobs. This is because it is very important. If we have jobs like others, there won't be problem again and we won't have to complain again. Sometimes when we go to different offices to look for job, they tell us we are not capable of doing it. And when we get one, we are sent to deaf school. Why deaf school? Why? We have studied like others and even in school, we are told to select courses and they tell us, no, you can't study these. You have to study education. When some of us don't even have the interest in studying education. In my own opinion, we have different courses and now we need the accessibility to it. That is what the government should consider on most importantly.
So, now if other international bodies come in to help, what do you think they should do to support? I know that we have lot of international bodies that have been very supportive to persons with disability. Talking about World Health Organization, United Nations, UNICEF, and others like that. How can they improve to support if we have them to come in to help persons with disability like you that is deaf? How can they support you?
Support me with facilities, equipment that can help me improve my hearing, or that can help me improve my feelings and facilities, equipment that will help me to improve my life. Because some of us are not working, they can give us something or establish us in businesses or maybe appoint us in other ways that can help to improve our lives. And also because many of us, you see us around working without doing anything, most especially the deaf people, we don't have anything to do, no job. If they can help us with something to improve our lives, maybe establish us in businesses or give us something that can help our life, that would be better.
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel, for this opportunity that you have given us to speak with you and listen to your plight. And we speak on your behalf and other persons with disability that the government should please look into this because we have a lot of complaints all the time. When you talk about discrimination here and there, many of them are always complaining about it. And talking about the employment thing, we need them to please rise up to support them, even if it is provision of facilities or business support for them. And also, we know that they will feel happy and see themselves equal to other able bodied people. Thank you so much. And I want to ask one last question. With all the advocacy everywhere, do you think that you have been accepted? Do you think that the society is accepting or has accepted you?
Well, for me, I do think, and I believe, and also don't believe, because studies showing that there is no equality. Some out there, when you get to the office, they listen to you and tell you they're going to support you, but afterwards, we don't see anything. While we've left it in the hands of God, and we know that God is going to work on it and believe that one day they will change because it doesn't just happen. And we believe that if it doesn't happen today, tomorrow it will happen and continue.
Thank you so much for coming. And we hope that we'll have other chats with you.